Eoch Tanuyap, Quiget Yuans Quiansna. Hi everybody, my name is Quiget Yuans. I'm a member of the Squamish Nation and the Yagalanis clan of the Haida Nation. You're listening to Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. We live, work, play, and broadcast from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations.
You are listening to CFRO Community Radio Station. The upcoming show, Conscious Living Radio, is a program that explores frontiers of consciousness, spirituality, personal growth, emerging paradigms in psychology, health, science, and innovative philosophies that reflect commitment to the advancement of individual, social, and global transformation.
Hello, and welcome to Conscious Living, where we air every Wednesday at 6 p.m. here in Vancouver on 100.5 FM CFRO in Vancouver, as I had mentioned. And we're also streaming out live right now to all of our social media channels on YouTube and our Facebook pages and such. So please feel free to tune into the show and share with your friends. Again, my name is Mark Cron, and today I'm really excited to introduce our guests. And I've had the pleasure of meeting these two beautiful souls probably almost a year and a half ago in the work I've been doing on the back end of other projects in the World Peace Initiatives. And I'm really happy to introduce Tezikiah Gabriel and David Wick. Now, Tezikiah is the Executive Director of Pathways to Peace, a UN peace messenger organization in consultation with the ECOSOC, I would say. And she works in partnership with Peacebuilders locally and globally to build a culture of peace. She is also the owner and senior consultant for Gabriel Associates. And for over 30 years, Tez has worked with mission-based organizations to create relevant, viable, and sustainable workplace environments that affect real change in our world. She's also an ordained minister who conducts interfaith and intercultural ceremonies and works with individuals and groups to empower the divine within each of us. She's also the founder of the Gabriel Associates, where in 1991, she took her mission as a partner with nonprofit organizations and leaders to strengthen and increase their ability to make a positive difference in the lives of people, and they exist to serve and change our world. Over the past 30 years, as a nationally recognized consultant and trainer, Tezikiah has provided change management, consulting, and training to hundreds of mission-based organizations and thousands of nonprofit leaders who wish to create and inspire sustainable change through transformative approaches that value individual differences and unleash untapped potential, honor inherent wisdom, and deliver the desired results. Welcome to the program, Tezikiah. With all of that you have on your plate, it certainly keeps you busy.
It does, and I'm so honored and delighted to be with you, Mark. Thank you.
Well, I'm really glad you're here, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. And we also have David Wick, who is, again, a brilliant man in his own right. And here we go. So he's founded a youth services in Santa Cruz in Watsonville, California in 1974 with a staff of only 8 eager volunteers, and he only had a budget of $17,000. This current multi-million-dollar center is still going strong today, and it's based on the dynamic early years of youth services that he authored a chapter in the recently published book, The Origins of Neuro-Linguistic Programming. I love NLP. It's a foundation of things that I really appreciate and how we roll. So, we could talk about that too, David. And then in 1983, he helped launch the United Nations NGO Pathways to Peace, which had assisted the resolution passage of the UN's International Day of Peace in 1981. David's been a leader in organizing the celebration of the International Peace Day since 1984, and he currently serves as the PTP director as well as the president. While working at Stanford University in 1985, he founded the 10-year-long Pathways to Peace within Organizations program, and in 1995, he co-founded the visionary project Peacebuilding Through Business, which led to being a leading member of a 5-year international think tank on the future role of business in the 21st century. David is currently the team leader of the Global Culture of Peace Initiative, a UN-designated peace messenger initiative, which Pathways to Peace services as the secretariat. Well, that's a lot of big, great bio stuff, everyone. But I love the work you're doing, and I'm honored to have, met you when I did about a year and a half ago in the work that we do to, help create a better world and a better life for people as individuals, as community, and as a collective humanity. So welcome to Conscious Living, and I look forward to our program and our conversation today.
Well, beautiful. Wonderful to be here with you. Thank you for this honor.
Yes, very humbling. Thank you.
The honor is all mine, and humbled I am, and grateful and appreciative for you taking your time out of your day today. So, let's really dive in and talk about what really brought us here, because, my introduction to you was through Unity Earth and Ben Bowler's team, and Pathways to Peace is a big proponent in these world peace initiatives from the UN, International Peace Day and thing. So maybe we can start with Tezikiah telling us a little bit about your story of how you got involved in this movement, because you've got so much under your belt in that sense of what you do, your education, your experience. What brought you to the Peace Initiative?
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm sure like many who are listening, I've been a peace builder my entire life. As far back as I can remember, I've cared about peace. I worked to kind of, even as a young child, to kind of get in the middle of conflict and create resolution, always knowing that kindness, compassion, honoring differences, and modeling the way we'd all like to be are important components of peace building. I never intended to become a peace builder by trade. And so I answered the call to Pathways to Peace a number of years ago, I think about 7 years ago. And it was a calling. I wasn't looking for another job or more work to do. But when the call came through, it was clear to me that I needed to say yes. David and I always talk about the sacred yes, stepping up when we're called. And certainly that was true for me. And the journey has been incredible. Part of that journey was with our founder, Avon Madison, who is beloved internationally and was one of the lead instigators on the establishment of the International Day of Peace, as well as the Declaration and Program of Action for a Culture of Peace. And Avon passed 2.5 years ago. So at that point, I was called to step up even more and to bring additional leadership. And so I've been just honored and delighted to be a part of what is near and dear in my own heart and in the hearts, I think, of just about everyone in our world today, which is that hunger for peace.
Thank you for that. And I know you do a lot of great work in the peace movement. I know you also work actively with women in Africa as well. So I just want to thank you for the work that you do, because it really makes a difference.
Thank you, Mark. Well, certainly the girls' shelter in the Republic of Guinea is, again, so close to what all of us care about. And it came through our partnership with our partners on the ground. We were doing peace education training, and they asked for gender-based violence training. And they would take our training and then go out into the community and train their community. And in preparing for the gender-based violence training, they brought to us the story of 2 young girls who had come to them. These 2 young girls were brave and said no to female genital mutilation and were homeless as a result. So we at Pathways to Peace, we just could not turn a blind eye. Our partners had really envisioned a girls' shelter because they recognized that the more community education they did, the more girls would be brave enough to come forward. and would risk then being homeless and ostracized in their communities. So it was one of those times where we were called into action. It's happened many times. But we said, of course, we said yes, that we needed to help them create that shelter. So within four months of that story happening, on Peace Day in 2023, we opened the girls' shelter in the Republic of Guinea. And that work goes on. And it's just incredible to see how little it takes to allow these girls to dream a better future for themselves, and to get that kind of support. It's not just basic needs. It's also that they get to go back to school. They get job training if they need it. They get counseling for the healing and the trauma they've experienced. They have a safe place to begin to be themselves. And so it's just every day I am inspired by what happens in the girls' shelter and in the Republic of Guinea, in Kindia. And we expect to end female genital mutilation in one generation in that project. So, yeah, thank you for asking, Mark.
Well, I think
it's a program.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And when you hear about what's going on over there and in different parts of the world, I just want to thank you for being and creating a safe, sacred space for these women and young women to know that they're not going to be homeless and that they can stand up for what's right and what's right for them, and that they've got a safe space where they can go without being ostracized. So thank you for that great work.
Well, and the exciting thing is that they are learning to be leaders that can be advocates for other girls. And so, again, it's just so satisfying. The task is its own reward. So,
and it's great. I love what you said too about that, where the women are able to lead other women and other young girls, which I think is really important, because who understands what you're going through, better than anyone else who's gone through it. It's like in my coaching world, it's all, you can't take someone where you haven't been. And,
that's right.
It's such an important part of, support and healing and growth. So let's switch gears. Dave, you've been sitting there patiently and listening and nodding. And I just want to thank you again for the work you do. You've been involved with Pathways to Peace, it sounds like, pretty much from the beginning. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. I was engaged, got to know Avon, and then Pathways to Peace in 1980. And actually, it built upon let me go back. So the whole concept, the vision of Pathways to Peace is Avon had this when she was 4 years old. She had a vision of the world peace and what that can be and what that can look like, and a way as a vehicle to do so. So she held that all her life, worked in the foreign diplomatic service, started engaging with the United Nations, and helping to evolve the whole concept of the Pathways to Peace, which became a 501c3 in 1983, but engaging in many different activities prior to that. One of which was in 1981, working with the colleagues, Robert Mueller, who was the Assistant Secretary General at the UN, and others, helping to formulate the concept and then passing the resolution of the creating the resolution of the International Day of Peace in 1981. And the point of it was, at that point, it still is Peace Day provides a globally shared date for all humanity to commit to peace above all differences and contribute to building a culture of peace. So it's a day which is to emphasize the overall goal, the overall mission, basically of the UN and of all people, is creating a culture of peace. And the culture of peace is not just art or something like that. It's all things that we do. as human beings, what we share, our thinking, our institutions, our behaviors, and so on. But that's, to me and to many people, that's overall what we're doing, is evolving from the culture of conflict and war that we've lived in for thousands of years to a culture of peace. So one aspect of it is creating the International Day of Peace, which is September 21 of every year. And so there's a time to come together, acknowledging what we've done, over the past year, and preparing for the next year, and in celebration, but also thoughtful, looking forward. So let me tell you the story. In 1981, working with the United Nations, created the International Day of Peace. In 1982, and this is supposed to be globally, worldwide, and bring it out to civil society. In 1982, they had a quiet minute of silence in the General Assembly, and that was it for the International Day of Peace. And so we at Pathway said, okay, we can do this, let's bring it out. So we spent a year planning a major event in San Francisco, which is September 20, and actually that time it was September 18th of 1984. We did create a major celebration in the Civic Center Plaza in San Francisco in front of the City Hall, and it was a very big deal. And the highlight is at 12 noon, which was the creation of the minute of silence, moment of peace. At 12 noon, taking a minute and being in silence, but thinking of and holding of the high value of peace and peace building. At that time in San Francisco, the city got very involved with it. iMagnons and other stores stopped their cash registers for a minute at 12 noon, stopped the broadcasting at NBC affiliate in San Francisco. Many different things happened. That started the peace wave, which has continued every year since. And so this year, the 40th anniversary, we're having another major celebration in San Francisco, the same location that Tezikiah and I and others, we have a whole team of people working on. And it's a major step in acknowledging globally, and we'll tell more about the global aspect of the culture of the International Day of Peace. All people to stop, take a minute, and be aware of it. And this has grown from thousands of people in 1984 to what we have heard is 3 billion people this year will be aware of or participate in the International Day of Peace. So, Tezikiah, what would you say further?
No, you said it so beautifully. I guess I could add that wave at 12 noon, that peace wave became a movement. And that movement is what we celebrate today, that peace building movement. So in that same space, we will be again pausing for that minute of silence, moment of peace at 12 noon from our outdoor staged event that will also be broadcast globally with our sister celebrations around the world also pausing at 12 noon for that peace wave. And so, yes, we celebrate the incredible movement that began in 1984, but we also look forward and are planting the seeds for taking the next steps because our job isn't done. We want to see that peace prevails on earth. And so we're going to plot a way forward to actually turn that dial finally, to be able to experience peace both within, and we'll be providing some opportunities for people to learn the practice of the peace wave, but other practices that really create that inner peace that can then be focused externally as well. So our individual and collective movement for peace on earth. And again, as I said earlier, we know that even though it's difficult sometimes to see, we know that there's a hunger for peace in everyone's heart. And so it's time for us to release that, to experience it internally, and to release it to even a greater degree externally, so that we can actually witness peace on earth.
And this is where we also, people get more information about it at the Pathways to Peace website. So pathwaystopeace.org, just spell it out, pathwaystopeace.org, peace.org. And you can find out more about the International Day of Peace and what's taking place. And also, if people cannot be there in person, you can register to get the information for the global broadcast. And also just the global broadcast that's going to be through Hubcast Media, which is also in Vancouver, where
Yes.
you are, Mark.
I'm sitting in our podcast room right now.
Yeah, right. And thank you for this. I mean, this is fantastic. But this is what we do, working together to
That's
bring
right.
out the experience, and that's expanding more and more to bring it out. And as Tezikiah said, it all begins with us personally. In my life, this is
Yes.
not just some, we can't do world peace, and that's a whole different level. But
Yes.
but peace building begins with each of us personally. How am I living my life? What choices am I making in my life, in my relationships? How am I doing in in my working with my own upsets, my own anger, and how do I deal with that? And what about my family, my community, and the people I work with, where I'm going to school or where I work? All of that is fundamental to creating peace and well-being in our life. That also has, and this is a whole part of we can talk about more, is the evolution of the consciousness.
Yes.
This impacts the greater consciousness that we are all part of, an energetic level, and that's a whole, another important area. But it really comes down to, and let me just share a couple of things, it's about what goes on here in our thinking, and then our heart, or heart and then our thinking, and then the behavior that we make. So one of the key kind of a center point for all the work is the preamble of UNESCO. That's the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. And the preamble says, since wars begin in the minds of men and women, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed, rather. And that's absolutely true. It is in our minds where it all starts. And it's in our communications where we can move to another level of real peace building. So that's part of what Pathways to Peace is all about, is to help the experiences, the thinking, the behaviors around peace and the culture of peace in all aspects of our life.
Yes, as a matter of fact, Mark, you've probably heard us say this, but one of our mantras is, I am a pathway to peace, recognizing that each of us has a role to play. It's not somebody else's job, and it doesn't matter who you are or where you've been or what your profession is. You are a pathway to peace. And so it's empowering that. And when war begins in the minds of people. And we always say you lead with your heart and the mind will follow, but certainly that's where peace resides too, is within the heart and mind of all of us. And so, yes.
Yeah, well, that's really beautifully said. And I think, when we come back and start from our heart is really important. And I think in the Western world and, over time we get so head-centric. We're focused on our head and intellectual and knowing information and having all this knowledge. And then it's one thing to regurgitate it and kind of repeat what we've learned. It's another thing to embody what we've learned and act on it.
That's
We
right.
always say, understanding is understanding, knowing is doing, right?
Right.
And there's a difference there. And I think, David, you spoke about it too. What I read about your bio about NLP, it's something that changed my life when I started understanding the power of language. And
Yes.
it leads back to, what you were talking about, what we talk to about ourselves and choosing peace. And I'm sure you've read that great classic book, As a Man Thinketh.
Mm-hmm.
There's some great little
That's it.
things in there, like,
That's
if
it.
you're beaten, you are. If you think you're right, you're right. If you think you're wrong, you're wrong. Whatever you think, you're right, because if you believe it, it's true.
Well, there's also the ancient saying of as you think, so you become.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And it's being that guardian at the gates of our mind and letting in those thoughts and being able to discern what's my thought, what's ego thought, what's monkey mind, what's collective.
Right. Right.
And it brings me to what you both said is this innate, what I believe you were saying is it's an innate desire for all of us to have peace.
That's correct.
What I
Yes.
find interesting is throughout history, as long as recorded time has been documented, there's always been war. There's always been,
Yes.
murder and killing and things of that nature. And, maybe we're seeing less of it today, or it's changed, but we still have what's going on in the Ukraine. We have what's going on in the Middle East. And I think there's, 20 plus active war zones, if not more, around the world. So I guess
Yes.
my question is, because you're so immersed in this for, the past 40 years, is war part of human nature? Is it a learned behavior? How do we bridge that? Because I agree that peace starts with ourselves. We have to be at peace first within ourselves.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that we can be peace, show up peaceful, and inspire peace.
Yep. Yep. Choose peace
Yeah.
and then act out of that choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we've got
Yeah,
so
well-
much wisdom, knowledge, resources. Everything in this world today is right there at our fingertips, yet we still have this problem in the world. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Tim. Well, okay, I'll share a couple
Okay.
things. So one of the things, just share with you from this is a quote from Willis Harman, and Willis Harman was a very close colleague, president of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and very close with us at Pathways to Peace. And he said, perhaps the only limits to the human mind are those we believe in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really our minds are conditioned. Is how what we learn in the world, and we're in a tough. We're in the physical world. It's a tough place because it is also we live in duality. That's what is the world here, and that's part of our learning. In my experience and understanding, is the world. This is really a schoolhouse, which we continue to learn the lessons, and we continue to learn the lessons of our higher values and how we hold them. I mean, look at all the religions of the world. What have they been teaching? All of them have been teaching love, compassion, care. And that's one of the challenges of human beings, learning that and how we hold that. And so that's been happening through history, as you say, the wars, the murders, etc. Well, that's, you can go deeper into why that happens. I mean, karmically and so on, but really it's part, and that's what we talked about, and Tezikiah can really bring this forward, is we're in a grand evolution of consciousness.
Yes.
And over time and over millennia, or over, look at the Kali Yuga, the yugas of major amounts of time, we're in an evolution of consciousness. And there's a lot of pathways is involved with that. And let me share again with you from Willis Harman. He says, we're living through one of the most fundamental shifts in history, a change in the actual belief structure of Western society. No economic, political, or military power can compare with the power of a change of mind. By deliberately changing their images of reality, people are changing the world. That's what we're doing. We're changing our beliefs for the better. And it's a journey, and it's a challenge, and we can do this over time. Tezikiah?
Yes. Well, yes, yes, yes. And what is underneath all of this for the last thousands of years is the myth of separation. And that we are separate from each other. We're separate from divine source. We're separate from our beautiful planet. We're separate from the universe. And of course, what's happening now, which is a part of this incredible opportunity that we have right now, is that the science has now been merging with faith traditions and indigenous wisdom to say we have never been separate. We cannot be separate. And so once we, as a collective whole, and we see that this is emerging, this unitive knowledge and the unitive approach to how we live our lives, that is surfacing. Many of us are embracing that and embodying that. And when en masse, that occurs, that people really embrace and then embody that, it will be an end to war and all of those other issues. Because how can I harm you when I recognize it harms me? And we know that that's true. How can I advocate for you being hungry because that's going to harm me? We are all one. And so this emergence of the unitive narrative is changing everything around our consciousness. And of course, it's going to ultimately bring us peace on earth. And so, yes, yes, yes to all of it. And I personally am grateful that I am here at this particular time to be able to witness the shift in mass consciousness, because it is occurring. And we're lucky enough to be locking arms, as David said, with others who really know this truth and are acting out of that and are educating others about it in very practical ways. So it's an amazing time to be on the planet. And yes, we grieve for those who are suffering, and yet we know that there is a shift occurring and that we can be a part of that. And so often throughout history, I think of so many of our heroes who, regardless of what was going on around them, they embraced and embodied peace. And they practiced peace with those around them, like Viktor Frankl in the concentration camps. You know, just so many who weren't dependent. Their inner peace was not dependent on having easy, beautiful, comfortable surroundings. As a matter of fact, I think that people who are experiencing that level of suffering are incredible models for having that inner peace within that suffering circumstance, because they know the importance of that. So yes, it's an incredible time to be on the planet.
And I'd just like to share one of the contexts that really spoke to me years ago when I was on my own search about what is this world about? Who am I? And was Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, where he said, "You are not a human being in search of a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being immersed in a human experience." Mm-hmm. It's like that. Okay, yeah, that rings, and it's like that shifts the whole concept of what we're doing.
Well, it really does, and you touched on it earlier. Both of you were talking about like that expanded consciousness. As we grow our consciousness, we're going to be in more of a place for peace for others and within ourselves. And I know I can speak of that firsthand from I had a oneness experience in 2007. It was an ancient Indian meditation that literally changed my life. And coming out of that, not that I was ever, violent or anything of that kind of nature of a human being ever, but in this experience, I saw the connectedness of all things, all living things, and not just human beings, all animals, all plants, all nature, the universe, the cosmos, all of it.
Yes.
And when I realized that as different as we all are, right, we're all the same. We all have the same kind of common problems. We all have the same emotions that we go through. We have different values, meaning, culture, and such. But underneath it all, if you boil it all down and take that out of it, we're all the same. Yet we're different in our individuality and how we express, how we learn, how we communicate. And this, I think, is the way that we reach people one by one by many, by also embracing and embodying that and being peaceful and having these conversations as well, because it's within community. You talk about separation earlier, is, when we take these communities and start breaking down the conflict between us, we can see the commonality and we can see the connection. And then people realize, why would we want to do that? Like, I don't understand why people would want to kill other people or in the name of God. What it makes absolutely no sense in today's world.
No.
And yet, it's still happening.
Yes.
And as we move forward and have these conversations, here we are, three of us having a conversation to many. And if we can reach one person that goes, wow, that's something to think about, or how can I make a difference? Because it's the call to action. And how do we bring more people into the conversation about what does it take? Are you even at peace first before we can start talking about peace? Because if I'm all frazzled and freaked out about everything that's going on and I'm not at peace and I'm not grounded, centered, and present, how am I going to even communicate that to other people?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And there's also, it says, like I said, there's not just some great ideas, it's scientifically shown, energetically. And there's a couple of quick examples. HeartMath measures coherence, which is heart-mind coherence in peaceful states. And there are ways, to consciously do that, but they measure coherence globally. And the energetic field, the changes that happen, and how we are all connected. Similarly, with the Maharishi University and the meditation scientific practices that have shown how the meditative practices impact a community. I mean, on that level alone. So it's absolutely true. So it's really coming to what choices do we make daily? We get up in the morning, what are the choices I make right now?
That's right.
Yeah. So like, who do we vote for? Where do we spend our money? I think that's always an important one is, we vote where we shop and how we spend our money. And if we put, the universal resources that go to war and guns and that sort of thing into peace, anti-poverty, food, this planet has everything we need for all of us to live well. And I believe it's an inherent God-given right to have a life of joy, of
absolutely,
gratitude and peace.
Right.
And take our mission
Yes.
out of our human experience to figure that out.
Yes.
And at the same time, there's also what I just mentioned, Pathways to Peace is an infrastructure for peace. It's an entity. It's created, and through this entity, we can do what we do. Many different organizations are doing that. The United Nations was created as an infrastructure for peace. And and over time, we evolve and we have to change and have to shift. The United Nations has many difficulties because it is based on the nation state. And nation states have their very strong self-interest as opposed to global interest, although it's supposed to have that. And so there's evolutions and changes that need to happen at the UN also, and it needs to be evolving. We know people very close in, ambassadors and so on, who talk about that it must change and evolve. And at the same time, the UN is the only global organization that everyone comes to. It's got problems. You got to change and evolve, but it is the place where everyone can come under the same roof.
Yes.
And how important that's just super important because it takes time. We're changing a history of humanity on this planet that we don't even know how long we've really been here and what we've been doing, but it's going to take time. And I think it's all a step in the right direction. And we have to understand. And at the end of the day, we have to be that change as individuals. Number one, we can blame people for stuff. We can criticize and do all of those things. And at the end of the day, we have to look at ourselves first and, what are our role in it? What can we do about it? How can we make a change? What's the difference? And if we want peace for our lives, everybody else wants peace in theirs too, right?
That's exactly right. And, with the United Nations, there's this huge arm of the United Nations that we're part of called civil society. And, the United Nations was set up to have that joining of civil society with member states. And certainly, David kind of implied this, but certainly there's some concern that there is greater separation between civil society and the member states. And the United Nations is just a microcosm of what's happening on our planet and what's happening in our communities and within ourselves. And that is that we are recognizing and beginning to move toward unity. And that's what is going to be occurring with the United Nations as well. But it's easier at the ground level to be able to support that movement toward unity than it is in long-standing large institutions. But they're feeling that evolutionary pain of needing to come together in unity in ways that around our world that we've never witnessed it before. And I want to dip back to just one thing you mentioned, Mark, that I think is so important. It seems that a lot of people don't recognize that they have a choice, that they can choose peace, that they can choose to change their behavior and act in peaceful ways, or they can choose to engage peace in their communities. It's all about choice. We all have free will, and we have the power to choose our path forward. And so we encourage everyone to choose a path of peace. And again, I'll say the task is its own reward, because there's nothing that's any more satisfying, gratifying than living in loving peace. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. So let's spin a little bit. We've got about 8 minutes or so left, and I want to make sure that we do talk about International Peace Day. And I know Pathways to Peace, you're working on a great event down in San Francisco where it kind of originated with Pathways to Peace. My understanding, you're saying 1981 as it started, and now 1984 is where it kind of really took off in San Francisco, and you're doing a great event there that's going to be part of a global broadcast. So tell us about what's happening in San Francisco on World Peace Day.
It's a grand event. It began as wanting to acknowledge the 40th anniversary and said, well, let's do that in San Francisco in the same place where it has grown exponentially.
Interesting that it's San Francisco
What's
too,
that?
right? I said it's interesting that it's San Francisco, just with its history of like the peacenik movements in the 60s and things like.
And the birthplace of the United Nations was in San Francisco as well.
I didn't
so, yes. And so, yes, do you want to continue on?
You go, Tezikiah. You go.
So it is an incredible event. We have incredible performers on an outdoor stage. That is going to be, as you mentioned, Mark, is going to be a part of a 24-hour global broadcast. So we're going to be sending out our Peace Wave at 12 noon to other Peace International Day of Peace gatherings in different cities around our world. But we're also going to have the opportunity to bring those celebrations back into ours through that global broadcast. We have our performers are incredible. It starts at 10:30 in the morning. It's over with at 4 p.m.
It's Saturday.
On Saturday, which is the International Day of Peace, September 21st. And you'll be able, if you can't make it to us live, you'll be able to tune into that global broadcast. Not only for us, we're considered to be the hub for the global broadcast because, again, it's kind of where the movement began in 1984. But there's going to be incredible peace activities around the world in Hiroshima and in Tokyo and in Geneva, just multiple
New York
places.
and London.
In New York, Ringo Starr's doing a peace wave, I think, from New York for the program out of there, I understand.
Yes. And so we have that. Then on the ground, we have 20 nonprofit organizations that have tables that are engaging our audience in peace activities for all ages. And so we're calling this is not new terminology for you, Mark, but it's edutainment at its best, in that we tried to limit the number of speakers, and we have successfully done that. But all of our performers, we have music, we have dancing, we have drumming, we have poetry, we have meditation, and we have practical peace practices interspersed in. So we want people to leave with tools to bring peace into their own lives and resources if they choose to get engaged with peace in their communities. So it's very exciting. And I think, as David said, it's grown way beyond our wildest imaginations. And we are so grateful for the team of volunteers that are working with us, as well as Hubcast Media for the global. I mean, Peter and folks there, probably including you, Mark, have just been incredible advisors as well as supporting the global broadcast. So we couldn't be any more excited and thrilled than we are.
Absolutely. Yes, and it absolutely says, Guy. And also I want to mention a couple of things. One is, and we are also inviting financial support.
Yes, please.
For sponsorship and also financial support. You go on the pathwaystopeace.org. There's a place for financial assistance and support. It's a big deal, and it costs a lot of money.
Yes.
And actually, that's one of the things that over time, the evolution of support for peace and peace building really needs to open up all the more in the financial world, and how we want to, everything costs money to do, many things, put it that way. And so the finances are very important to do the best work that we can. And then the other is that the United Nations every year has a theme for the International Day of Peace. And this year's theme globally for the International Day of Peace from the UN is cultivating a culture of peace.
Which we're so excited about.
Yeah, which all of us are part of. Every single person that's alive is creating the culture of peace where we live, where we work, where we sit.
Yes. And thank you in advance for you, Mark, but also folks out there that wish to invest or contribute, for helping us bring peace to the world. That is our task, and that's what we are committed and intending to do. So help us do that. Thank you.
Yeah, and please, for anybody, if you're watching and these things do move you and you want to be part of it, check out the website Pathways for Peace, because they do a lot of great work there, and not
Pathways to Peace.
Sorry,
yes.
My apologies. And
No,
it's, you can contribute also in different ways, because you mentioned volunteers, and I do a lot of volunteer work myself in many different areas. And one way, if you don't have the financial resources, your time, your spirit, your energy, your smile really can go a long way in any of these events. And it's always important to support that. And it's one way you can help support the peace movement. Absolutely.
yes,
Basically, we're all in this together.
we are.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yes.
I concur. Well, wow, we're running to the end of our time, David and Tezikiah. I just want you to know I appreciate, respect, and I'm full of gratitude for the work that you've been doing over the years. And I encourage you, if you're watching this program today, share the message of peace with others in your community and have a conversation about what that is. And maybe ask yourself, how can I be more peaceful? Or how can I be even more peaceful? What can I do differently today? Because action is what creates change. We can talk about it all day long on these podcasts. We can talk about it in groups. But if we don't go out and actually do something to make that change, then it's just an idea. But it's when we take our conversation, put it into a plan, and take massive action that we can make a difference. And it starts one person at a time.
That's right. That's
Absolutely.
right. Pathwaystopeace.org. And again, remember, you are a pathway to peace. And we're grateful for every one of you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mark. This is wonderful to spend this time with you, and also to be able to let others know about what's taking place. And this is a great, use of your talent, skill, your reach into the world.
Well, that's part of my mission is, how do we make a difference? How do we inspire others to, live a even better everyday life? And I always like to say, and have fun doing it. Because
that's exactly right. It's all about joy. It is all about joy.
When it's not always great, we call that embrace the suck. The only way through is through.
That's right.
Let's go around it.
Yes.
Again, I want to thank you for being part of our program, and you're always welcome to come back, share your message anytime you want to have something to share with the world. We're happy to share with our community. And again, thank you. We'll see you all for the International Day of Peace on September 21st, live from San Francisco and other parts around the world. Right. You've been listening to Conscious Living Radio. My name is Mark Curran, where we air here on CFRO 100.5 FM in Vancouver. Until next time, be the pathway to peace. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great.
For free show downloads, additional information about our guests and topics, or details about upcoming programs, check us out at consciousliving.radio.org.